Hey everyone, welcome back to the latest podcast. It's hard to believe it's middle of June already and half the year's over. It seems like only a few days ago we were lambing, and I feel like before that you get racing, get ready for lambing. So I don't know what other people think, but for me, this year's absolutely flying. So in today's podcast, going to talk a little bit about what's going on the farm at the moment. Going to talk a little bit about the agriculture shows and a question that was brought up on Facebook, which I thought was a really good question. So I'm just gonna get into it and we'll see how we get on. So the farm at the moment, well, with the teasers out, with the Dorset Joe, so they're gonna be lambing. Rams will be going out soon, so they're gonna be lambing long before Christmas and hopefully be finished up for Christmas. We haven't the shearing finished because we haven't restarted. We just done some of the show sheep and the rams. It's how would you describe it? We're not in a panic for shearing. We'll be shearing soon enough. It is coming up in the next few weeks. Because we dipped and because we put the owls, the owls bellies and tails last autumn, and I'm sure the hoggets, you're not under the same pressure for the shearing. It's good, like, but before we get the rams out, I would like to get the coats off the horses especially, and we should get done. It's coming up now pretty quickly, like, and but it's hard to believe like that you just one batch finished and now you're getting ready for tipping and all that. So it's fast paced, but that's good. Like it keeps it moving, it keeps you going. So what we've been up to lately, we've been getting the pen ready for shearing. How would you describe? What's the best way to describe it? I'm very happy how the new pen looks, so we'll see how it works. And yeah, it's only a small thing, but last year I done up a pen for the shearing as well. Didn't need to use it. Had to bring the sheep home because the weather was bad. So this year I'm hoping I get to use that pen. If not, we'll be shearing in the shed and it won't be as comfortable or as nice. So the plan is to use that pen, and the plan is now to get the sheep into their batches organised and have them ready, so when the lads come to shear that, it's just a matter of banging them out and I'm not getting harsh, my veins not getting harsh, and they're not getting harsh. So once we've the shearing done, we'll start into the silage. Crops, I'd be dubious at how good the crop's going to be. I don't know. I think the quality of the crop is there, but I don't think the volume of bales is. The fields that I wanted to mow twice, it's not looking like there's going to be a good crop on it to keep it up twice. So I'm going to talk to Tom, who does the mowing, and see what he thinks. Because if we mow it now, it'll have July, August, and wouldn't be mowing until September. So see if he thinks it'd be worthwhile, or should I put a bit of fertilizer on it? Because I will need a second crop on the second field, although I will be short a good few bales if I don't. And so I'll have a chat with him. And at the end of the day, you're as well talking to the person that's doing the job all the time, that knows a bit more about it than what maybe yourself does, than guessing it and winging it and hoping for the best, because they do the job. So in fairness to Tom, he does know. So at the end of the month, we'll be coming up, we'll be starting to get the ewes weaned, and I'm going to go to similar processes last year. It worked well last year, and I'm going to aim for the same thing this year. And I'll talk about a bit more in the podcast near the time, but basically we just sell store lambs, and then we'll get the yo lambs moved off as well, and the mule from the mules, and then the horn joes, they'll go to the mart. They're old, and then we tighten up the yows then on ground for weaning, and basically have to get branding done, get them fixed up. So as I say, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks over the next few weeks, and I suppose in one way for the YouTube videos that's going to be good, because there'll be a lot of me running around after sheep, but for a bit of life and having not been under pressure, it won't be as good. You know, a good bit of topping to do and tidying up, like, so I'm looking forward to it. That says I would say I had a day off. I the weekend I didn't go flat to the mat working on Saturday with weather and all that. I actually had a good long sleep, and I feel better of it now because it has helped. So I'm going to get into a little bit about the agri shows. But the first thing I'm going to do is a little bit on a poll I had on Instagram, and just ask people how many of them were going to attend agri shows in 2025. So 15% said 6 plus, 39 said 3 to 5, 39% also said under 3, and 7% said no interest. There was 66 people voted in it. Now 66 is not a huge number, but the fact that it seems to be under 3 and up to 5 are very even, I presume that's a good rough account. Over 6, maybe I was expecting to be a bit higher. But after being at a few shows there in the last 2 weeks, kind of looking at myself going, if you're there for a day out and you're not showing sheep, grand, you pay your entry fee and that. But if you're there for a day and you're showing sheep and you're going around the shows and all that, they're not a cheap day out. I noticed this year that the price of registering sheep in some of the shows and that gone up. And even this evening, myself and Elaine were talking about a show or two, and she's debating on what she wants to do, but it'll be her choice what she wants to do. But we look at it together and we'll see how it goes. But just they are costly day out, because just from us in the last 2 shows we went to, I suppose the shows cost us roughly nearly €400 to go to 2 shows. Show sheep, paid entry fee was tenner a sheep. Diesel wasn't under 150. Handy, because there were 2 good distances to go. You had your food. We brought our own food with us, but still had to be bought to be paid. So food was, and then you had buying a few bits and pieces at the shows and a couple little things. And, it's a lot of money for Dave. Now, it's not about the rosettes, but the rosettes kind of, you don't notice the expenditure when you're getting the rosettes. And what I noticed was, we were in Athlone there recently, and it was a good show, and the venue was lovely. I mean, absolutely brilliant. But the sheep in it, was funny, in the sense that, what's the best way to describe it? There was a lot of really, really class sheep in it, and the amount of different breeds. But one of the things that I did come away with from the show, from my own opinion, was I just said to myself, there's just far too many breeds of sheep in the country. Looking at the show and walking up and going, well, can you do a job on our farm? I was looking at sheep. No, 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 no. And I just said to myself, I think there's too many breeds nearly to have for the market for them all. That's something that I see. So just a little bit of this on show. There was, if I enter chips or Suffolk Hogget into class for the Suffolk Yos. Now, it was Hogget Joe and upwards. Now, anybody that knows anything about sheep or Suffolk sheep knows a Hogget Joe and a 4-year-old Joe is 2 completely different sheep. Would you put a 10-year-old child in against a 16-year-old child and tell them to play under 16 football? No, you wouldn't. They're not allowed. But you're putting a really young sheep in against. Now, look, it's not, and again, it's not about the prize run. The size of the yow that won. Like, there was 3 yows won, first, second, third. Now I picked the third as first, which is different to the judge, which is fine. But they were class. Like, you couldn't dispute them. But you couldn't compare Evain's yow to them. You know, it's no comparison. So I just thinking when I was looking at the show, I was thinking to myself, the shows kind of have a little bit they have to treat, if you're paying the money for it, they have to have the classes for the sheep, and it should be kind of, when people are booking in, this online booking to me doesn't work, because you should be able to talk to the person, book them in, and say, well, okay, you're coming to this show and we're bringing a crossbred sheep, and that's fine. Bring your, or you should bring your Suffolk. Sorry, bring the Suffolk, and yeah, oh, well, we have a hogget class, or we don't have a hogget class. Why don't you have a hogget class? You have lambs. Oh, well, we mightn't have enough entries, but you can't compare the two sheep. So just that's to me. I think the online booking in is a bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest. But we were there in the show, and there was two girls beside us. I'd say, guessing they were 12 and 10, and they had two lambs, and I mean pristine. They were not a hair out place, not a bit out of colour. They minded them to the last. Our tent was too big for our pen, so we put it over so they could have half the tent. They were delighted. Every 10 minutes they were in, they were petting the sheep, minding the sheep. And like, these lambs were 55, 60 kilos handy. Now we had a Charolais lamb, and I said to myself, lads, we're not going to compete with them. And our Charolais lamb was 50 kilos. And I said to myself, you couldn't compete. And I kind of felt a little bit bad for Elaine standing in the pen with it, like, well, she was doing the show. But we went into the ring, and they brought in their sheep, and Elaine's buying her sheep, and that was grand. And then we're looking around and going, holy eyes of all supposed to be crossbred. So these were pedigree Suffolks put to a pedigree Texan ram breed yow lambs for this. They were monsters. And I mean absolutely monsters. That's, to me, if crossbred pedigree and crossbred is two different sheep. And I just thought to myself, looking at the two girls, don't mind our sheep, because we didn't come last. There was two younger people behind us. They were a crossbred lamb. These three sheep, there were 5 sheep, were crossbreds. But the other sheep, crossbred pedigree, is a different class. Like, you cannot be putting them into the same thing. So I just think, looking at the show and going forward, we're going to definitely decide what we're going to do. We're going to look more closely at the classes, because I won't be going to crossbred and going up against pedigree sheep again, because that's just ridiculous. Now, I'm going to say this, the judge, he was brilliant, because when you're going down along the line, I could see that the two girls sheep weren't going to get a prize. I could see that our lambs weren't going to get a prize, and the other lambs weren't going to get a prize. Didn't matter. He was fast with every sheep, and he was equally fast with each sheep, but was just nice and talkative. Done his job, was really, really nice, but most importantly, he walked up and down the crossbred section before the show started. He didn't judge the person that was standing there. He was looking at the sheep, and he knew what he was looking at coming into the ring. So he didn't have to spend ages in the ring wondering and looking. He hadn't them judged, but he had in his mind, that was good sheep, that's a good sheep. So he had half his job done. I'm gonna say this, I think he's the best judge that I've ever seen in any show in Ireland, because I just think he was brilliant. Fast, knew what he was doing, and really, really good. You couldn't fault him. But I do think this thing of having pedigree sheep crossbreds bred by pedigree and crossbreds, it's just something. Now, I understand that shows are restricted in what they can do and can't do, but lads, like, fair is fair, like, and I'm not talking about our lamb. Our lamb wasn't good. It's the two girls. They were devastated leaving that ring. They put so much work in, and they had in them prayers button and getting the prize. And that was 20 quid. they go to the next show in around the area, wherever they live, they're not going to get a prize either. Even though they have 2 smashing sheep, if they're going to come up against pedigrees. That's going to turn them away from it. Them are 2 girls that should be, the shows should be targeting saying, right, you hear it used. Like, they had young handlers for 17 to 25, but didn't have it for the kids. These 2 girls would have won it for the kids. They had got a rosette and a bag of jellies. They would have went home happy. Instead of that, out of the ring and gone. And didn't hang around after the show. They've been waiting around there all day. And again, like, it was to start at 1 o'clock and didn't start for an hour and a half, 2 hours later. Like, ridiculous. So, just on that, like, I know these shows come on, but I'm not knocking the show, but that's not the point. The point is, crossbred pedigrees shouldn't be judged with ordinary crossbreds. And I think shows going forward really need to, okay, you have the booking in online, but if you're going to go down the route of crossbred pedigrees, well then have a class for crossbred pedigrees. Because not alone that, this is the one that will take, anyone that knows that about sheep, this is the one that will take the biscuit. We had 2 lambs in the butcher's lambs, right? So I had a 50 kilo lamb in the butcher's lambs, right? And it came second last. Because the lads brought the pedigree yo lambs that weren't in the other classes into this class, into butcher's lamb. Now, was anybody telling me that a pedigree cross Texel Suffolk lamb is going to be butchered? No. Is it a butcher's lamb if it's 70 fucking kilos? No, it's not. Like, and I just looked at it and I just said to myself, that's a load of shite. Like, you're not getting a prize for being a butcher's lamb when you're clearly not a butcher's lamb. A butcher's lamb is a factory lamb, not a lamb that's bred for that. So, like, I know I might see that I'm giving out about it, but I'm not. I'm just trying to let people understand that if you're going to the shows over somewhere and or even next year or something you're thinking of doing, you really need to look at the classes and go, okay, we don't want our kids upset, so we wait, go to 1 or 2 shows, small shows, and see what happens. That's all. Like, is, as I say, at Lowndes Breeding Show, we were in Dundalk week before, again, Breeding Show, but it's the little things that you have to talk about, and that's the point of talking about these, so that our experiences at the shows that other people can know from. So now I'm going to get to the main thing that was coming up for the evening, which is I seen on Facebook, which comes back, it's kind of related to the shows, that there's a young lad in England, Andrew was his name, he's 22, and he was looking to judge, the stock judging, like the Suffolks or Texas or whatever like that. So he put it up on Facebook, is there any courses in his area? And I said to myself, that's a great idea. His responses was, go in as an understudy with a judge, go to the shows, get loads of experience, no course. Basically, there was no courses. And I kind of said to myself, why has the main breeds not got a course? What is the criteria? Is each show judged on a person's opinion? Like, if it is, it's impossible then to ever have a direction for the breed, because one person likes a type, another person likes this type, and it comes back to the Suffolks. Yvain Suffolk is very different to a lot of other Suffolks in the class, which is more narrow and tall. Like, so I just think that in this day and age, in 2025, that there's no courses done, and that every member of any society should be sent on a course on stock judging. There should be a brochure from every society. This is what we want. You're not just judging on what I'm judging, because then we go into a show where my sheep can compete, or we have to buy this type of sheep. I just thought it was for a young lad to ask the question. I thought it was a brilliant question to ask, and I also thought that it's something that should be done. And what brought it back to us, what really brought it home, was we were in a sale a couple of years ago, and the judge walked up and down the sale judging the lambs with the catalogue from the sale. So he stood at each pen. Now, I'm going to say this, right? I've been at the same sale for a good few years. I can walk in and go, there's such and such lambs, there's such and such lambs, there's such and don't need a catalogue. I might get one or two mixed up, but roughly you'd know whose is whose lambs. Right, so you wouldn't need a catalogue. He's there with a catalogue, right? So they lay out 4 pens of lambs. One of the guys' pens they stood at for 10 minutes. They didn't get a prize, but they stood at it for 10 minutes debating whether this pen should go from third, should be fourth or third. Now, we had lambs in. They weren't let out, right? So that's the way it was. But they stood for 10 minutes at this pen. So they weren't judging the sheep. They were judging the owners of the sheep. Because when the lambs went into the ring, first prize made X amount, third, second, third, fourth. You weren't the fourth prize, but the ones that were coming fourth, they made X amount. Now, our lambs were not let out of the pen, but our lambs bet them all on prices. Now, they didn't beat them by a £5 or a tenner. I think it was 25 or 30 euro to bet the first prize winners. Like, they well and truly bet them on price. The same guy the following year was bidding up a certain pen of lambs because they got a prize. Still weren't equaling the prize, the prize that they were getting. If he wasn't bidding on them, there was nobody bidding on them. And this was coming back to the young lad's question, like, should he not be judging the stock, not the owners? And it's, again, look, it doesn't make any difference to me. I never worry about them things. But I just found this, when the young lad said on Facebook, was there a show like that, a judging thing, course, I thought to myself, you know what, there should be. And I know it's hard to get people to judge sheep at sales and all that, like, but I just thought to myself, you know what, when you think back in your own experience, and I guarantee you, there's going to be everybody who's listening to this podcast is going to have the same experience in sales as what I have had. Maybe not the exact same way, but in a different way, where you'll have seen it happening with sheep that should have got a prize and didn't, and vice versa, your own sheep. So it's a universal thing. Why in 2025, with sheep being in demand, why has it not been set out? Why is there not a course there? Or why has the breeds not come together and said, right, we're going to set the standards? Like, it's just, to me, I just thought the young lad's question was brilliant. And, you know, I'm going to message him when a podcast goes up. I'm going to message him, Andrew, and just tell him that he got a mention, and I thought his question was brilliant, because I do follow him on Facebook. He's at the shearing, he's working on his sheep, he's trimming them. It's a really, really nice thing to see, and a 22-year-old so invested in sheep, because that's the future of farming. Not lads like me or 20 years older than me walking around hand sticks. We're not the future of farming. The next generation's the future. And I always think the futures of farming and the future generations, their opinion is very, very important. So that's today's podcast. I hope it's enjoyable. I hope that you understand the point of view. It's just asking the question. It's not, there's nobody giving out or anything like that, but you have to ask the question. If you don't ask the question, then nobody's going to ask it for you. You know, so as I say, what we've been doing on our farm lately is all the videos are up on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do give us a shout. We've got a bit coming out. Like I keep saying, we've a lot coming on. Summer's half over. Like it's going like a rocket. But it's great. I have to say now, it's great now. And that sleep the weekend really done me the world of good. So I'm going to head now. And I'm going to say thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much for listening. And I will chat to you all very, very soon.